weird that I've been at Universal for 17 years because I'm a millennial. No. Good afternoon, everybody. It is so great to be here. Thank you, Dean Daly and Frank, for that kind welcome and introduction. Congratulations to a Pickford Award winner, Nanachka Khan. She got to introduce me. I get to follow her. She got the better end of the deal, for sure. Faculty, staff, proud parents, and board siblings. I know you're out there. I can see you. Wake up. And most importantly, to the class of 2019, you did it! Yay! Congratulations, you guys. You have worked so hard to get here. From learning the classics from Professor Casper, to spending hours in the basement putting the finishing touches on your final projects. Yeah, I know. Round of applause to you on that, for that. All of that blood, sweat, and tears brought you to this week and the moment we've all been waiting for, a royal baby. Maybe the wrong room for that one. But in all seriousness, it's an honor to share this incredible day with you guys. There's a reason we call the ceremony a commencement, because it's not just about the end of college, but the beginning of your new life out in the world. So as you think about what's next, I just want to share with you 4 lessons that I've learned on my journey in this industry. Lessons that I hope will inspire you on your journey that lies ahead. I've learned more than 4, but I figured we only had time for 4. So almost 28 years ago, I was about your age, and when I arrived in Los Angeles from London with my best friend, bright-eyed, eager, and basically clueless. You are graduating with a degree from the best film school in the world. I had no credentials and no connections. So I proceeded to do what any young, ambitious filmmaker would do. I hustled. I burned the candle at both ends, working as a hostess in a hot LA restaurant to support my unpaid internship at a literary agency. It was at this restaurant that I started meeting some really interesting people in the industry, including an up-and-coming writer-director duo, Scott Rosenberg and Gary Fleeter, who's a USC alum. They had a short film under their belts that was winning all kinds of awards, and now they had a feature-length script they were trying to get made. So for 3 months, my friends and I ran around town using the restaurant as a base of operations, trying to get this thing set up to make a movie. But we didn't exactly know how the game was played, and the project was usurped by a more seasoned producer. But still, that experience was a really important one. It taught me that I probably didn't have what it took to be an independent producer. It more clearly shaped my career path, and it proved to me that I did not like to lose. So right about now, your parents are maybe eyeing me warily, wondering if this degree they just supported you through will lead you right back to living rent-free on their couch. Who is this woman encouraging my child to wait tables on Sunset Strip? Aren't the British supposed to be much more sensible? No. But I tell you this story not to scare your parents, but because it illustrates the first lesson I want to share. The next stage in your lives is a beautiful and unique time when you can take risks, follow your idealism, and land on your feet. Now, of course, you're going to be anxious, but there'll be lots of late nights throwing back too many drinks with your friends, wondering if you're making the right choices and if you're on the right path. Let me break the news to you right now. You will make bad choices. You will fall short of your expectations. You will buy a hideous couch. You will date the absolute wrong person, and your Postmates order history will become a source of very deep regret. You know what I mean. But don't fear it, because it's all part of the beauty and the journey and the fun. Even when you screw up, the lessons you learn and the relationships you build will see you through the rest of your life. That best friend I came here to America with She's still my best friend, and our kids go to school together. So the question for each of you is, what will you do with this special time? And perhaps equally as important, what won't you do? What doors will you close? Because here's another truth. When one door closes, another one always opens. It's basically a mathematical principle. And you just have to be ready for it. Remember the film opportunity with the USC alum? Well, I got that door slammed pretty hard in my face. But it was also at that restaurant that I met somebody who would become a dear friend and mentor, Mike DeLuca. Yeah. Mike took a chance on me. He hired me at New Line Cinema, an opportunity that changed the course of my life forever. So I'm aware of how unusual it is to see someone like me rise to the top of the industry, and people often ask how I did it. And I know what they really want to know is, how did you get to be a Hollywood film executive with curly hair and the weird accent and quite possibly the wrong gender? But I am proof that there's no one way to make it in this industry. But there is one principle that has served me well, and that's staying true to who I am and what I know is right. And that brings me to my second lesson. Contrary to popular belief, two of the most valuable assets in Hollywood and in life are authenticity and integrity. Don't get me wrong, I am tough, I'm competitive, and I play to win. But you don't have to be immoral to be successful. You're graduating at what feels like a tumultuous time. We've seen every institution in American life, from academia to Hollywood to government, rocked by scandals that make us question whether truth, integrity, and honesty have ever really mattered. But if the past few years have taught us anything, it's that integrity matters now more than ever. We've seen it, yeah. So we've seen this as brave men and women have spoken out against sexual misconduct, and more powerful people are paying the price for their behavior. And yeah, I applaud for that too. And of course, the entertainment industry remains an intensely competitive and even cutthroat place. Writing, directing, acting in, designing, producing, and marketing a movie, no matter what anyone will tell you, is always a high wire act. And in an insecure environment, it can be tempting, and really seem easy to take shortcuts and to make moral compromises, or at the very least, to treat others badly in pursuit of your goals. But it is possible to be respectful and collegial without giving away your power. As one of my mentors who is here today, Ron Meyer, once said from this very stage, "Don't mistake kindness for weakness." But no matter what is going on, I always try to come at my work from a place of humanity and authenticity. I learned this early on in my career as the youngest person on the creative team for one of the finest cinematic achievements of all time, Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. Now, I knew this movie was going to be a hit. There was just no two ways about it. It was hilarious. I also knew that with Mike Myers having English parents, this was my opportunity. I was determined to make an impression and connect with him. So I quickly assessed the situation. Mike's family is British, I'm British. He's a comedian, I love comedy. And then I remembered all the classic British comic books I read growing up. And so in a pre-Amazon world, off I go back over the pond to England, where I proceed to buy these comedic treasures. And during our next meeting with him, with no pretense, I handed him my gift. And Mike didn't exude much of a reaction in that moment, other than to smile and say thank you, but it made a lasting impression. Shortly thereafter, he told my bosses that he wanted me working on all his films moving forward. And this experience taught me a couple of things. First, it taught me that we're all human with common interests. And even though you may be young and feel less accomplished than the established filmmaker or artist, understand that they are human. They binge watch Game of Thrones and occasionally forget to pack their underwear in their suitcase on a trip and spend way too much time scrolling through their Instagram feeds, just like the rest of us. Stay true to yourself and be confident in who you are. Second, I learned as the lowest person on the totem pole, you may not be the decision maker, but you will have the opportunity to be in the room and learn. The stakes are low because you don't have a ton of responsibility. So in those moments, figure out what you can do to assert your value and then make your mark. So now that you're leaving the safety of this beautiful campus and perhaps venturing deeper into Hollywood, what are you walking into? Well, the industry has changed so much since I first started. As content creators, you have more choices available to you than ever before. Long form, short form, streaming, traditional, non-traditional. We're experiencing a sort of creative platform gold rush, and it is so exciting. It also might seem daunting, but believe me when I say that there has never been a better time for people who know how to create content. It's a skill that all these huge, scary companies do not possess, and they all desperately need. But that's not enough. Beyond creative talent, what I also look for is people who believe that no job is too big or too small. Which brings me to my third lesson. Filmmaking is a team sport, and you want to be a utility player. Or put another way, make yourself valuable, even indispensable. This is something I learned early on. In the 90s, New Line had a reputation for guerrilla filmmaking. We weren't the biggest studio with the biggest budgets, so the way to survive was to keep all hands on deck and to be fearless. I'll give you an example. We were working on a film about an Atlanta-based hip-hop festival, and in order to get the project greenlit, we needed to shoot a proof of concept during the festival itself. So off I go to Atlanta with my friend and mentor, Mary Parent. As soon as we arrive, this producer gives me a Bolex camera, an assistant, and a bunch of release forms and says, go and get some footage. Now, it's important to understand that I hadn't been off the boat for very long, so there I am, spending an entire Sunday crashing barbecues in a park in Atlanta with no clue what Sunday barbecues actually meant to local families. Bolex camera in hand, approaching strangers with, excuse me, may we take some video? Of course, I had absolutely no business interfering with people's perfectly lovely Sunday in the park. Plenty of people were nice about it, and some understandably weren't. But I kept going. I had a job to do. The project ultimately fell apart, but I came back feeling like a true guerrilla filmmaker, ready to roll up my sleeves and do anything that was needed to get the job done. By the time I got to Universal, my reputation preceded me. People knew I was a team player who would do the work. And it's why to this day, when I show up on a set and they want me to sit in some ceremonial director's chair with my name on it, when I come visit your guys' sets, do not do that. I lose my mind. So, put me to work. Let me help block the shot, fix the wardrobe malfunction, or feed the crew. Every pair of hands on a movie set matters, and mine are no exception. They should be useful too. Filmmaking is a team sport. But being a team player is about more than just making a movie or a game. It's also how we're going to transform our industry and make it more representative of all of us. In 2018, a study conducted by the Annenberg School right here at USC analyzed more than 48,000 characters in 1,000 top films between 2007 and 2017. Only 30% of all roles in that time were filled by female-speaking characters. And out of more than 1,000 directors over that decade, just 4% were women. These numbers are bleak, but believe me when I say that we have been making some progress. We're seeing more stories and storytellers that represent the full breadth of the human experience. And you have the chance to move the needle even more. Don't just hire people who look, sound, and create like you do. The point of diversity isn't to check a box, it's to create more opportunities and to tell stories that reflect the world around us. And that brings me to my final lesson. The best storytelling connects us all. At Universal, when I've championed films like Straight Outta Compton and Get Out, or Pitch Perfect and Girls Trip, thank you. Well, I do it because I know that they're not just niche films for a limited audience. I saw in them the potential to move people of all backgrounds from all over the world, to make us laugh and cry in the same moments, and to ultimately bring us together. The brilliant John Singleton once said about Boys in the Hood, he said, "The movie wasn't made for everybody. It was made for a young black audience that buys hip-hop records. But I knew that if I got it as universal as possible, it would cross over." And boy, was he right. So no matter what field you're going into, production, management, game design, editing, animation, no matter what you end up doing, there's always a way to create something that touches what is universal, what is human in all of us, to make a difference. I have the privilege of working with so many young people at the studio, and I am struck by their passion for improving the world around them. Your generation is as active and engaged as any that has come before you. And with that energy, with that commitment to a more just, inclusive world, the power you have as storytellers can be a potent force for good. And that's what drew me, and probably many of you, to films in the first place. So I grew up in a pretty magical place called the Isle of Wight, the kind of beautiful landscape that ignites your imagination. But it was a time that felt insecure and even unjust, not unlike the times we live in now. Our politics in the UK were a mess. We were surrounded by instability in other countries. We lived with the constant fear of terrorist attacks, and at times it felt like our freedoms were under threat. Sound familiar? And I didn't quite know how to handle this nagging feeling of uncertainty, which is why I probably escaped to the movie theater wherever I could. But I learned that when humanity is at our worst, when we go through our most divisive and scary times, storytelling has always been there for us, always. Whether it was World War II, Vietnam, or the tumult of the 60s, films helped us make sense of the chaos and find a way forward. The power of everything that you have learned here is that you can tell stories that speak to the moment across every style and genre. I mean, who would have thought that a horror movie made by a comedian would become one of the most profound meditations on race in America ever made? And now it's your time. This is your opportunity. You are entering the world with what I truly believe is a superpower. Armed with your education and your enthusiasm, you have enough power to take action and do things without being bound by settled norms. You are not limited by how things were done in the past, and that is what you hold in your hands. What will you do with your superpower, and what will your legacy be? But for today, relax and be so proud of your accomplishment. Enjoy this celebration, and tomorrow wake up and take inspiration and wisdom of yet another cinematic masterpiece, Mamma Mia. Life is short, the world is wide, and I want to make some memories. Class of 2019, congratulations.